Hi girls, this is Mr. Gilmore here once again with you. You'll notice again we are going to continue on with this screen interface. Again, it just is so much faster on my end. And so far we've been working on area, perimeter and volume. We've looked at area, we've looked at perimeter. What do you think we're going to do next? Of course, it is volume. So, it's the 24th of March and we are on lesson 5. Now, what is volume? Well, volume, it's as simple as, I'm going to rewrite that. Volume is as simple as the amount of space an object takes up. So when we were doing normal measurements, we were doing one dimensional. So, a line would be one dimensional. A square was our next kind of thing. We're dealing with a square. That's two-dimensional. And finally, well, you've probably figured it out, volume is three-dimensional. So I'm just going to draw a quick little box here. So before we continue on, when we were dealing with one-dimensional spaces, when we were dealing with just like, a straight line, what did we measure that in? Well, we measured that in centimeters, right? And when we were dealing with two-dimensional objects, we dealt with that in what? So the area of a square. Well, that was centimeters squared. And when we look at the perimeter, we'll realize, wait a second, the perimeter was in centimeters, but you'll realize, wait a second, the perimeter is just the length. Like it's kind of a one-dimensional value describing a two-dimensional object. And we'll talk about a two-dimensional value that we use to describe a three-dimensional object in a little bit. But when we're looking at squares, we're realizing it's three-dimensional. So, of course, volume is going to be centimeters cubed. And this was just measuring it. Area was length. Sorry, that wasn't length, it was height by width. So we had, our height, and we had our width. So I'm going to give you a few seconds, just try to figure out, wait a second, is there a pattern here that we are going by? One-dimensional object was just length. Two-dimensional is width, height by width. Well, let's have a quick look at the three-dimensional one. Well, in this case, we could have the width of an object, right? We could look at the length of an object. And finally, we could look at the height of an object. Width by length by height. That is how we find volume. Very simple. Width by length by height. And the idea here is volume is just how much space the object takes up. So if I were to create just kind of a 1 by 1 by 1 block, right? I made a really tiny block. It was 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. Be 1 centimeter cubed. And then each kind of value that we would get in centimeters cubed would be how many 1 centimeter cube blocks we could fit in there. In the same way that if we were dealing with, let's say, this being 2 centimeters high and 2 centimeters wide, we realize, wait a second, that's 4 centimeter square blocks we could fit in. So let's have a quick try at a few questions like this, and we'll look into how we can solve these. Okay, so volume is, I'm going to use very non-scientific language here. the amount of space an object takes up. Okay, and let's look first at, let's find the volume of this block here, block A. Okay, so it's 10 centimeters in height, 2 centimeters in length, 4 centimeters in width. So the volume is going to be the width by the length by the height. So 4 by 2 by 10. Calculating that out, you can use a calculator if you want. That should be 60 centimeters cubed. Okay, now let's look at another question. So imagine I don't just want to find the volume of an object. Instead, I already have the volume of an object. Let's say this block B, it takes up 60 centimeters cubed. How would I find the height of the object? Well, again, it's not that bad. Firstly, we'd realize, okay, and we're going to be using a little bit of algebra here, not a huge amount, but we'll start to see why we were learning algebra beforehand. So actually, I'm just going to go back a step here. I can say volume equals width by length by height, and height is just going to stay as h. We can realize 160 equals the width, 8 centimeters, by the length, 2 centimeters, by the height. Okay, so we can see 160 centimeters cubed equals 16 by the height. And finally, we can figure that out. We've already done maths like this before. In fact, you know what? I'm going to go back and I'm going to remove that multiply sign because you girls don't need it. You girls have already figured this sort of stuff out. And you'll go, wait a second, 10 centimeters will end up equaling the height. Okay, so that's all I'm going to cover with you girls today. You'll notice in your book, it does also talk a little bit about surface area. I'm going to ignore surface area today. I'm going to give you guys a bit of a lighter level of work so you're not completely overwhelmed. And I'm going to ask you girls to go to your book and go to pages 208 and 209. I'm going to ask you girls to give a try at questions 1, 3, part A. Notice it's 3 part A because we haven't done surface area yet. We will do surface area in the next class. So 1, 3 part A, 5, 7 part 1, 8, 9, 11, and 12. And one of the things I'm just going to say to you girls, 11 and 12, those are going to be our tough questions. I want everyone to attempt them. You know what else I want everyone to do? I want everyone to show a little bit of work for this. You don't have to show a huge amount, but I do want to see some work shown for 11 and 12 at least, because, well, I won't lie to you, I'll be a little bit suspicious if you don't. Either way, have a lovely day, girls, and I look forward to correcting all your work. Bye-bye.